Welcome back to another episode of Addicted to Quitting, where we are focusing on quitting the habits that no longer serve us so we can elevate our health, our habits, and our happiness. I am excited for another episode where we are going to be talking about quitting things that don't serve us, which is like quitting the over accumulation of stuff with my friend Sona. So Sona, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience?
Yes, my name is Sona Batisyan, and I'm a decluttering coach and a professional organizer. And I help overwhelmed, busy moms simplify their lives so that they have more time to dedicate to things that matter to them, whether it's hobbies or resting or being more present with their families, whatever it is, so that they can do more of that.
Mhm. So I love this because, as you know, I'm a mom to 4 boys and I'm a single mom. And I want you to share about your story, but I also I really relate to your story because I bought a bigger house after I got divorced, thinking that I would have now that I have more space for the kids, but I'm feeling more and more overwhelmed with the more crevices that I have to clean and organize in the game room and all this stuff. So I would love to hear your story on how you ended up in this business of helping women.
Absolutely. So after my divorce, I moved from a 5-bedroom house to a studio at the beach with my 2 kids. And a lot of people thought I was crazy. I remember some friends coming and looking at me with almost like they felt sorry for me
Mhm.
because they thought, oh my God, she had all this beautiful house and lifestyle and look at, but they just, some of them understood it, but some of them just didn't get how much happiness that small space was bringing me because I am really affected by my surroundings. My mind just works so much better when I am looking at an organized, beautiful looking space instead of everything being out of place. And even if you're the most organized person, once you have kids, it's so hard to keep it up.
Mhm.
So having a space that always looked cozy and like home, I could actually spend less time on things that don't really matter in the long run and more time doing things that matter. Like my kids were processing my divorce. Like we had been together for 17 years. So being able to give them that time, the energy, the attention, it was just life changing. So when it came time to decide what I was going to do with my life after that, because up to that point, I had given all of my energy and time to my husband's business, which we built from scratch, and it just grew to make 7 figures and it was doing really well. But when I stepped out, I left everything behind and I wanted something new and I wanted to find my purpose. And my purpose, I've always known that helping is the number one thing that makes me feel abundance, makes me feel purpose. So I was like, how can I help people? And a friend of mine mentioned something about being a professional organizer because I had just helped her organize her entire home. And she's like, you should do this as a business. I was like, that's so funny. Ooh, people do this, why
Mhm.
would they want me? She's like, I could have never done this by
Mhm.
myself. And I really thought she was exaggerating or kidding. I was like, of course you can. I didn't do anything. She's like, she held me by my shoulders, looked dead in my eyes, and she's like, I could have never done this. And I was like, "Oh, wow, there is a need for this. And I understand that because there's some things that are so easy for others that I find challenging. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, if I can help people.
I really I want to point on that because I'm like people that are listening right now that are trying to find your place and trying to find your niche. It's the most obvious thing to everyone else, but it's been so automatically you've been good at it your whole life that you're just like, no, everybody knows how to organize. Like everybody knows how to be themselves. Everybody knows how to figure out how to get sober. Everybody knows how to overcome these obstacles, but like they don't. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that don't just because you've been good at it. So I think like starting there with like, what are things that automatically come good to me is a
Mhm.
great place to start on your business or on your entrepreneurship or on your like just trying to figure out how you can serve. Because I do think that we innately as like humans love to serve, but I think as women especially, like we're multipliers. We learn how to like take good things and make them better.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Um, so yeah, that's how I decide. And you're so right. Like it's so obvious to like you kind of forget that you really can change somebody's life. Sometimes I'm like, oh, people are just when I'm trying to share a piece of information, sometimes I'm like, "Ugh, everybody knows this. Why am I posting it on
Yeah.
Instagram?" You know, like they're gonna be so annoyed. Like, we got this. You've told this 10,000 times. But then, like, I get so many messages from people asking that exact question that I feel like I have shared thousands of times that everyone knows already. But it takes so much more repeating for something to really sink in, I feel like. So just that reminder that what you're doing really can change somebody's life. And yeah, so when I started doing that and saw moms transformed after a single session, I was like addicted to that. I was like, I need more of this.
Yes, the way to work in that addicted to quitting. But so like the quitting aspect though, this is why I really like you because like the I feel like it fits the theme of this podcast so well of like letting go. Like I'm really obsessed with this idea of like everybody wants to add more stuff. Like you thought the big picture and like the dream was the big house and the backyard and all this stuff. But really, and that's like the same thing with your emotional stuff and with your like trying to change habits is that we want to pile more stuff on top of our stuff instead of be figuring out what we need to quit, what we need to get rid of, what we need to like remove from our lives. So what is like the biggest obstacle you find with working with clients and like what it's hard for them to remove?
Mhm. I feel like a lot of once we work together, it becomes very easy for them to get rid of things because I ask the right questions. And if you ask me what the right questions are, I couldn't tell you because it's very intuitive work. When I'm talking to them, I'm observing their body language, the stories that they tell. And then even in my consultation, I learn about their values, what's important to them. So based on that, I ask the questions that it becomes a no-brainer. They're like, "Oh my God, like for real, like why am I holding on to this?" So the I'll use it one day things are probably why people have so much stuff. Yes, there are people who are very sentimental and attached to some things, and I'll tell you some stories after. But most people get into this chaos of having too much just because something is in a great condition. And even though they're not using it, they think they will use it one day. Well, if you look at any item in your home, you will find a reason that it needs to stay. But when you look at the big picture, which is what is this costing me?
Mm-hmm.
Collect all the things in your house that you're not using into a pile. You will have a whole big room of stuff. And that room is costing you energy. It's costing you your relationships, your self talk. You know how many moms have a negative self talk because we, as women, if somebody comes to your house and sees it messed up, they're not going to say, "Oh, John is such a messy guy." Even if both parents work, they're going to say, "Lucy is not," it's always about the woman.
That
And
is so true.
yeah, so all of these items you're not using, put them in a pile and burn it. No, I'm just kidding, but like
I can't joke about this now because we just had a family member, not family member, community members, their house burnt down. But like literally, so I don't want to like not be. I'm not trying to be insensitive to people's houses burning down. Just want to put that out there. But my son the other day, before this happened, I was like, they were like, I was like, did we blow out that candle or something? And I was like, I don't care. Hopefully it burns it all down. And they're like, we have stuff in there. I'm like, do you know how like freeing it would be if the whole house burnt down right now? Like we get to just only pick what we want. Like that would be kind of a dream in a weird, sick way. Like, oh, it's gone. There's nothing else to take care of.
Feeling that we're gonna be really judged for this. But like, I know what you're saying, and I don't like. We're just joking. We're not. I absolutely understand because a lot of my clients say, "I just want a new home to forget about this and start from scratch and only get the things that I want."
Mhm.
It will cost you less money to just get an organizer who will help you get rid of the things you don't need to. But I understand that feeling of just starting from scratch and not dealing with all that stuff. You know what I feel like that with?
Mm. What?
My photo album, like on my phone. I
Oh,
just want to get a new phone and forget that that's the only thing in my life that I still can figure out the organizing because there's so many good pictures and videos and just not enough time to go through them. So yeah. But
yeah, I definitely have that with my phone, and then I'm like, "Oh, I wanna be able to look back in a couple years and see, like, I like to see the changes of the
yeah.
kids." And so but I did I after I joked that with my kids, I said I kinda started thinking like that, like, if my house were to burn down, what would be the few things that I would really be sad that I lost? So I have, like, some baby albums of the boys that,
Yeah.
like, their first years that I have, and then I'm like, "Okay, that would be kind of sad." And like, what would I spend money to replace? Like, I think that actually is not a horrible way to start. Like, what would I
I
actually want to go and replace in this house?
I think you're ready to become a professional organizer because that's exactly
Just
one of
like
the
move the
things.
camera around to the other parts of the house.
No, but seriously, like that's a nice way to reframe because let's say my memory boxes, right? I have a few memory boxes that I just keep some things that really mean to me. Maybe like a really meaningful essay I wrote in college or whatever. When I think about if I move to a place that is even smaller and I don't have the room to keep some of them, that's exactly what I would think. Like if there was a fire in my house, which items would I really be sad to let go? And I will only keep those things. For me, those are my journals because I am writing a book and I need to, rely on them for some memories or details and stuff. But the rest can go. And that's a nice reframe. Like if you really think about it, um, a lot of people change after going through something traumatic like that and realize like, I really like all of those things that I thought meant so much to me.
Mhm.
It doesn't. It comes down to your values.
Yeah.
And that's how I designed my life. Like when I moved out into that small studio, I thought, what are my values? What do I want to spend my time in? For me, it's, health, both emotional and physical for my kids and myself, time with friends and family, my purpose, and fun. So once you make that your priority and fill your schedule with those things, everything else just doesn't fit. But if you're not mindful about it, you will do this and then but it's like, and then you don't have time for the things that actually are meaningful. And that's when we get depressed. That's when something is, not working. And um, so yeah, like getting rid of things that don't serve you, whether it's relationships or um commitments in your schedule or things in your physical space. Once you let go of things that don't add to your life, it just becomes so much better and more meaningful.
Mhm. So so on that, like the relationships and the things that don't add value, like as you're working with clients and coaching clients, do you find those emotional type things come up a lot more? Like you're actually kind of like a therapist in that of like letting go of like relationships and
Mm.
what else?
Yeah. A lot of my clients have actually become friends because we have so much in common. Somehow I attract people that are like me and like our values are very similar. So they definitely open up more and they will start with one project and end up doing their entire home. And calling me is more like, oh, I've got this. Like, I know how to do this. You've taught me already, but I just need you there because it's so much more fun to do this with you and talk. It's like my therapist session. One of my clients told me it's like going to a spa when you're here. Like, you go to this room to get your manicure, you go to that room to get your facial, and it's like you do the garage and then this room, and it just feels like so good and relaxing afterwards. So yeah, definitely they open up more. I never push them. I let them open up by themselves, but the more open they are and the more they communicate, it's easier to help them.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure being able to have that connection so you can kind of read what really is gonna be important and what's like that efficiency, trying to figure out what's important and necessary for them, because I'm sure everybody has a little bit different priorities of like how they want things organized or what they need in their life.
Yeah, for sure.
So it sounded like with them, like I might need this someday is kind of a fear-based thought process.
Oh,
So yeah, so like letting go of that fear, like do you think that leaving your marriage or ending you guys ending your marriage and you moving out was kind of like a stepping stone of you being able to kind of hit fear head on, like that fear of the unknown or that fear of not having a security blanket, or how do you think that affected you and your decisions?
so I think I have been a minimalist and an organized person most of my life. Um, what my divorce taught me was how important are the values, shared values in a relationship. That's like, I realized that it's the number one thing. And my ex and I did not have the same values. He was about more things, and he got his validation a lot through, um, acquiring more things and following the what the media tells you you need to be happy, the expensive race car and house and this and that. For me, it was more about relationships and um, you know, raising better humans and doing a better job at parenting than um my default was, which was at all not what I am as a parent. Like, um, so it definitely helped to see. I don't know if I'm answering your question or I totally went in a different direction, but I think when it comes to scarcity, some things that I've realized is not actually through my divorce, but through coaching and through self growth. I am a big fan of self development books. I can read them all day long. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I have realized that the more you're afraid of not having things, the more that becomes your reality. If I have this purse and I'm like thinking, oh, I should put it in a dust bag and put it away. Like, what if something happens to it and I can't afford to buy it again? That's going to become your reality. You're not going to have that because when you go into that scarcity mindset,
Mhm.
it creates stress. Stress creates less creativity, and you can do your job in the best way if you are in that stress state.
Mhm.
So that is something that's the only thing I have had to work on when it comes to scarcity, to just trust that I will have it. It will come. I won't run out of money. My scarcity is just strictly with money because, oh my gosh, the childhood that I had and just the struggles I saw my parents go through. Sometimes when I'm in fight or flight or spent days without doing self-care and I'm stressed, my mind can go into that fear of what if I run out of my savings or what if I can't make money anymore? And that is something that I am working on every single day, becoming like staying on top of my thoughts and just observing them instead of getting sucked into it or trying to resist it and judge myself. I just watch them and I'm like, this is something that has that no longer applies to you. This is from a childhood fear or whatever. It will come. So there's a lot of like work that goes into that, but I don't know. I've never had scarcity when it comes to, not scarcity, but I never feel attached to things. I don't know.
That
Did
well,
I?
I think that like that's a good point with the scarcity though, because I think that that is probably like I mean I find myself with that on things like I have to keep this thing because I don't know when I can if I can afford another one if I end up needing it. So I do think that financial scarcity or
Mhm.
like it like runs us a lot, you know,
Mhm.
like we want to feel safe, we want to feel secure, we want to feel like we're gonna be okay. And money doesn't buy happiness, but money definitely buys that like blanket of security that I'm going to have the house to live in, to have the house happiness, you know what I mean? So
For
I
sure.
do think that yeah, like I think that like pointing that out is huge. And what do you think it was that like helped you make that kind of like shift in the mindset, like is meditation or prayer or faith in like a higher power? Is there something that kind of was like, okay, I'm like that faith or that trust, where do you think that comes
Mhm. So there was this book that I read a few years ago that started my self-development journey, and um, it's called The Happiness Advantage, and I recommend it to everybody. It basically shows that, you know how we're like, oh, once I have that relationship, or once I quit drinking, or once I have an organized house, or get that promotion, or get that guy, I will be happy. I will feel good. I will feel safe. It's actually the other way around. Once you feel happy, everything starts working. Your brain actually creates more endorphins, which make you see a wider angle, more opportunities, and your life just starts getting better. Because if we are in fight or flight and just working, and studying, um, and we're stressed, our body goes into like the fight or flight, where it's just two choices, like I have to do this or that. You don't get creative, so you cannot go to a happy place from that state. But when you are happy, and okay, then your question might be like, okay, yeah, but how can I be happy? What makes me happy? I thought you have to do crazy things to be happy, but there are like 10 things on my list that I've put on my reminders app. And sometimes when I'm feeling um sad, or like it it doesn't happen too often, but I might go into a victim mode where I feel sorry for myself. I just remind myself it's very simple to get out of this. There's just certain things I need to do. The biggest one, not the biggest one, but one of the ones that really works on me is exercise. You
Mhm.
might think like exercise, yeah. It really does change everything, just moving the energy in your body. And whether it's skateboarding that I do with my kids, or dancing, or sometimes like I will be in, like, even my face. One time I did a video, I looked 10 years older before my hike. I went up the hike, and while I was hiking, I was listening to my favorite book, which is A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And then once I got to the top, I meditated for like 20 minutes. By the time I was coming down, I had the soundtrack of La La Land, which I love, and I was just dancing down the mountain as if like it was my own Broadway show, and the mountain was mine. Was like, and people were singing, I was smiling, and you would have thought that I had the greatest life ever. Nothing had changed in that 2 hours
Mhm.
except for exercise, meditation, my um the way I reframed what was happening into my life, to just changing the words,
Mhm.
saying something like, I am financially ruined. That creates so much stress. You can't come out of it. But if you say, I have 50 cents in my account, what do I need to do? Your brain will come up with answers of what you need to do. And you don't feel like this dread, this feeling of like, okay, yeah, I have 50 cents in my account. What do I need to do?
Mhm.
So going back to my methods like exercising, meditation, spending 20 minutes in the sun, um giving definitely. Every time I feel like, oh, nobody gives me love, I'm a single mom and my friends are so busy, whatever, I'm like, okay, well, can you give your friends? And then I'll literally think of a friend who might need it, and I give, and then makes me feel so abundant. And um, or do a random act of kindness. It actually shows people who give more, they're happier than
Mhm.
people who don't. What are some other ones? Definitely journaling is my number one thing when I'm ruminating. When my brain goes into like, I just take out either this little digital typewriter that I have, or a journal, and I just write everything down. Because when you do that, a different part of your brain works and suddenly you get clarity. But if you keep it in yourself, it's not the same. You can also talk to a trusted friend. It does the same thing, but you need to get it out. Otherwise, it just gets stuck in there and creates stories that are not true.
Mhm. I feel like that was just like a great breakdown of my like 30-day habit reset. Like
Oh,
everything that you said is like things that I talk about. So I love that you're
yeah.
like confirming that these things are so so powerful and they're
Yeah.
simple. And I think that that's what like people overcomplicate. They're
Yeah.
like, I have to do this, I have to run a marathon, I have to be able to like be at the top of my game with my work. No, like you have to go for a walk. Like just start with like
Yeah.
and do them consistently. And when we're able to do them consistently, it really it does make you happier. It does really, really help. And the mindset thing that you're talking about with like the 50 cents in your bank account. And like you have 50 cents no matter what. So like how do you want to view that? It's like it's not the situation, the facts are the facts and the situation's the situation. So it's like those obstacles, do you want them to be viewed as weight that you're putting on your back, or do you want them to be viewed as like, okay, this is something that I now have to like look at different angles at and try to figure out how to maneuver it and what I'm going to do next. So I love that too, like reframing your obstacles into opportunities,
Mhm.
versus like carrying them around like a sack of potatoes.
Absolutely. And let me ask you a question. Do you do this 30-day reset as a community, or is it one-on-one?
So this is it's with the community. So they yeah.
Well, that actually, they did research for years, and they did the longest psychological research for, like, they observed people for like 50 years or whatever. And they found out that the number one source of happiness and determining if somebody was going to live a longer life and a healthier life was community, like being a part of something bigger and sharing something with other people, like people who lived even more stressful lives than others. If they had community, they actually, like, their physicals came back better than the ones who had less stressful life, but didn't have the community. So it's another one, like, if you can find your village, and that takes work, especially in the States, I have found. But if you find your community, and it changes everything. So I love that you're doing all of these things, which, like you said, are simple, and you do it with a community. That's amazing.
Yeah, so anyone that signs up, it's a self-study, but then they also get access to the community. So the community, we talk about what we're doing in there. And we focus on those things like that we talked about. And I break it down into three different sections of like health. So like the physical things like working out, and then you're like your habits, so routines and structure. So kind of like what you're talking about with your minimalist and like getting
Mhm.
organized. And then your happiness. So different things you can do, like you're saying with journaling and reframing our mindsets, you know, like how powerful it is when we're able to be proactive with like how I'm going to reframe obstacles and versus like
Mhm.
constantly just carrying them around. So
Yeah.
yeah, like all those little things that you're talking about though. I love that. I love that you touched on all that. And so something that I want to kind of with that today, you set up your podcast like background, which looks better than mine. I'm still working back here. But but
I feel
the
like this is great.
I'm gonna put some paneling up because I've seen that and that looks cool on podcasts, and my sign's held up with string right now, but we're making it work. Uh, but when you said like when we have a mindset of like excuse me, that not scarcity or like it opens up that vessel of like creativity. So can you kind of explain how like you make shift, like you're now with that vessel of creativity and that problem solving, that is like how you'd set up your backdrop today?
Oh, so when I actually have moved 3 times now after my divorce, and I just moved into this apartment like 3 months ago, and I had a sofa that had served us so well. We really loved it, but it wasn't fitting into this apartment. So I just decided that it was time for it to go because, yeah, I could have kept and stuff, um, thinking that I move once a year sometimes and it might look great in a different apartment. But every day that I would have been annoyed by seeing it, which doesn't fit into the space, it would have taken from that creativity. So again, you have to trust that when you need it, it's going to come. And that trust comes by doing all the things that I mentioned. Because if I don't do those things, trust me, it's not like I'm special, I'm positive. I actually have a very negative mind. That's why I'm good at my job, is because I see what's not working and I'm a problem solver and I fix it. But when it comes to my personal life, it actually hurts me because I see all the things that I need to improve about myself and the relationships and the people around me. So when I do those things, it does make everything better. So going back to that, I realized it was time to get rid of the sofa, and I only kept things that, again, are around my values. What are my values? Health, like I said, journaling is important to me, and I couldn't find time to journal, but I know how important it is for me. So I set up this little office, like it's a portable office. It's
Yeah. Yeah,
like
that's what I love that in the story that you were just like, I just kind of like move things around to create
yeah,
the space, and then I kind of will put it back. Like when we're so fixated on like things have to be a certain way, we're not
yeah,
able to see the different ways we could maneuver it to change the situation or change like the situation or the backdrop or whatever.
absolutely. And this little table and chair that are foldable and are very comfortable, I can take it into my balcony when I'm like, maybe having dinner and watching the sunset from my window, or I can take it to the park and make it into my office at the park, or put it here. Or if I need to watch a movie with my kids and family, like I have uh this what are they called, poofy things, what are the bean bags and stuff, I can bring it here and I have a projector that goes on that wall. Or if I want to have a cozy like book club with my friends, we can it's just so easy to change things around when you have only the things that you need. um, so yeah, it definitely helps not to have too much stuff. So things are easy. And I also like to find things that have a double purpose.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the repurposing factor of all
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to say something going back to those simple things that you can do. Um, I know it does work because I have lost 2 parents unexpectedly. I've gone through divorce. I have had many things that can really put you into depression, and they have. But simply remembering, I don't have to make it complicated. Even if I don't believe it, let's just do this thing and see what happens. And when I turned to those things that I learned from the happiness advantage that I mentioned just now, I get better. I
that.
get better. Like able to move on. So those things do work.
They do work, and I don't know all the science behind it. I'm sure that it explains it in the books and all that stuff. I just know like, hey, it works, and everybody I talk to that does them, it works. So I'm going to trust the process and just let it work. Because like I said, everything's happening no matter what. Like that's what I think that's what probably one of the biggest lessons I learned in my divorce. It was like, man, this sucks and this is hard. And now I'm a single mom and I'm trying to do all this. I'm like, it's going to happen no matter what. So either I can sit here and wallow about how lonely I am or how hard it is to cover all the bills or how hard it is to keep the calendars like on track and everything. It's like I can complain about all those things and they're all
Yep.
valid and they're all
Yep.
real,
Absolutely.
or I could just figure out how to do them as best I possibly can because they're going to happen no matter what. And like, do I want to live constantly stressed out over the things that are happening to me anyways? Or do I want to find joy in what's happening to me anyways? Like it's happening. Like there's no changing it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's all about what you're going to do about it, because we're not saying that your life is not hard or things don't, they are. Sometimes it's like, ugh, like, sorry.
You're okay.
It's like, oh, this is too hard. Like, why do I have to go? And then you start comparing and thinking
Mhm.
that, it's just happens to you and stuff. But what does that do to you? You like, if you feel that way, those things are completely valid, but staying in there is not going to change anything. Yes, life is hard sometimes. Yes, it seems like there is no white light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just stay there and do nothing about your situation, you're just going to be there and that is going to become your reality. Do I want to live like that? Maybe someone is fine with it, because sometimes we identify even with bad things and that just feeds the ego and it's comfortable.
Mhm.
But me personally, I would rather not be alive than live in that state. I want my life to keep getting better. And to be honest, when I got a divorce, I'm noticing that I was very naive. I thought it was going to be easy, or like I was going to get to where I wanted to do faster. And sometimes it's frustrating. And it makes me look back and be like, did I do the right thing? Or was this? But every time I'm proven that I did do the right thing. And yes, it is challenging sometimes, but the growth I'm seeing in myself. And sometimes it's easy to not see the growth, but when you look back and see where you were and where you've come,
Mhm.
that helps, instead of thinking like, I'm still not here, I'm still not here. Just look at the progress you've made.
Yeah.
It's big. So I just choose to grow every day, and that's what I'm passionate about.
I I think that that's a good point too that you made that you're we're not saying that it's a fix all. We're not saying that life's not hard. Like life is hard because I know people are listening to this like, well, if you knew what I was going through,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't say like just go for a walk. Like if you
Yeah.
knew, and it's
Mhm.
like we're everybody's battling something, and we're not saying that what you're going through isn't hard or isn't maybe unfair or isn't like complicated or messy. Like it's all like I see you, I believe you, but do you want to sit and constantly wanting to be seen in that pain, or do you want to have a good happy life, because life is short. And so it's
Yeah.
like I'm not saying we're neither of us are
Yeah.
saying, I mean, I'm speaking for you now, but we're not saying like it's not, you're not struggling or there's not obstacles, or it's like maybe you lost your house in a fire. Maybe that's
Mhm.
like a real thing for you right now, and that is hard and that's scary and it's financially drowning, and there's but what do you want to happen from here? Do you want everyone to know you as the person that gave up on life because they had something really bad happen to them, or do you want
Mhm.
to be the person that had bad things happen and then continued pushing and continued learning and continued growing and
Yeah.
finding true joy and happiness? And so, yeah, like these little things that we do, they're simple, but they're powerful and they're not a fix all.
Mhm.
But they're a great place to start.
Yeah. And I do know pain. I know a lot of people that have gone through cruel things. I know that sometimes, like, but I'm tired of fighting. I have been fighting my whole life, or like they just don't get it. I went through this and that. I might not share a lot of things that I've gone through. And it's sometimes really hard to get yourself out of it. But what is the other option? Like you said, are you just gonna just give up and not try to see if you can make something. Sometimes the most amazing things are created from pain. Like when you realize, you know what, this pain is too much. I can't handle it anymore. And I'm going to do everything in my power to get out of this. I have been there. Like I have done the work. And sometimes it would be like so hopeful because I would see the difference in like a day or a week. And then boom, like I would crash even worse than the time before. And after doing that 4 or 5 times, when you get hopeful and get a crash, hopeful and get a crash, it's so easy to be like, oh, this is not working. I'm tired. But every time I've decided to keep going, it eventually, like those falls and things became less frequent. And I grew so much for that experience that I created something that has actually made my life and other people's life better. So if you are in that state, you're listening to us right now, and you're in that state where you just are ready to give up, don't. Just trust me. Make your biggest pain your biggest purpose.
Mm.
Make it, figure out how to get out of it, and then share it with the world and help other people, because sometimes we think that we're the only people feeling that, but there's so many more people feeling exactly like you. And imagine if you figure it out and help them. Just, I got goosebumps all over my body. Imagine how many lives you will have saved. Like that is like that is my motivating thing. Like this last time when I went into that pain, I was like, I'm going to figure this out, and then I'm going to either write a book or somehow like share this so that other people who are going through this and are feeling lonely, like it's only happening to them, can know that this happened to someone else too and they were able to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And I love the idea that you're sharing, or like the honesty, the truth that you're sharing, that like you think like it's not linear. Like you do the thing and you say you're going to do it and you start doing it and you're feeling good, you take the steps and then you crash. And I
Yeah.
mean, I relate to that with sobriety. I relate to that with ending relationships. Relate to that with so many different things, but eventually I like every time that you take the steps forward, you learn a little bit, or there's some growth that happens. So like stick with it through the crashes, like you're saying. I love that, because it's like that pain will turn into your purpose, but it will never if you quit.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm actually working on a second business idea right now. Like, I want to create a community for single moms, something that, like, I know what they need because I know what those needs are from me. And I want to be able to create a community where their needs are met, where they grow as humans instead of, falling into that. Being a single mom is not an easy thing. I'm sure you know that, especially with 4 boys. Wow. But no matter how many kids you have, just being a single mom and the amount of guilt you might feel sometimes, or like the needs you have that are not met, and that affecting your relationship with your kids. And just as I go along, I learn so many things that I can't wait to share with other women who are um, doing the same. So, yeah, definitely, whatever pain you're going through right now, figure out how to get out of it. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, but not the ones you compare yourself to and feel less than, just the ones that really inspire you. Get out of it and then share that with the world.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. And I love the idea for single moms, because it is hard. It's like, I mean, just mom in general. But then like when you're taking on both roles, like this morning, okay, so this morning I get up with my oldest son and we work out, and I'm feeling like mom of the year. I got up early. I got him up early. I'm training him. I'm like such a good mom. I'm like patting myself on the back. I'm like, I go upstairs to get my twin up, and the tooth fairy forgot to come. It's like, oh, and he was like, does the tooth fairy not love me? I was like, no, I think the tooth fairy is very busy. But it's like this thing, and like the weight of all the things we have to remember as moms in general, but then like to also be trying to take on like the other, like just and not that, and dad's the same thing. I always have dads being like, it's hard to be a single dad too. I absolutely believe it's hard to be a single dad too. I think just single parents or co-parenting, parenting in general, it's all
Yeah.
hard. But yeah, like that guilt, and then not having anyone to turn to with that, like when you have those moments, you don't have a partner. It's like, it's okay. Like, or I'll take care of the
Yeah,
tooth fairy, or like whatever. Like, it's
yeah,
all on you. And that is really heavy. So
it's a lot.
I love that. I love the idea of that for you. And teach them how to be organized too. I like literally could fly you out here for an entire week and we can get this house in order. Um,
Where again, if I ever come that way, I'll totally
you're never coming this way. I live in a tiny little town. There's one stoplight. Like if you come this way, I'm gonna be like, why are you coming to this town? Sonia, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know if you should be here. But if by for random chance you're in the middle of the desert in Washington State, then call me, okay?
okay.
Any final tips for a quitter? So my quitter clubs, that's my peeps. They were addicted to quitting people, or maybe
Mhm.
quitting things that no longer serve us. So it could be a minimalist tips, it could be a mindset tip, but any final quitting tips, something that they should quit or remove from their life to help them level up.
I'm just gonna share what I got called to share, which is stop that negative self-talk. Um, Nothing good comes out of it. We have been taught that by criticizing, we get better. It does the opposite. It weighs us down, it makes us feel less than, and then it's just tell yourself things that you would want to be told, as whether when you were a kid or now, just how beautiful you are, how strong you are, how amazing and capable and kind and giving and whatever it is you are. And if there are things you want to be told but you don't believe yet, keep faking it. Just say it so many times until your brain starts believing it. And one thing that has really transformed my life and my kids' life is learning and making a conscious effort to say words of encouragement, because when sometimes we do things right, I just, with my upbringing, I've just taken it for granted. Yeah, this is how it's supposed to do. So we'll never give ourselves credit like it's supposed to be that way. But if we mess up something, we might talk so much shit to ourselves, like, oh, I messed it up, I'm the worst, I can't, like, I'll never make money, like, I'll never keep drinking, quit drinking, and all these things. But if you encourage yourself and notice the smallest things that you did right and just disregard the things that you failed or just learn from it, your life will transform, right? 5 things right now that you have done today, whether it's just making your bed or smiling when you didn't feel like, whatever it is, just a few things that you have done right, and keep doing this as a consistent practice that will transform your life.
I love that. I love that. And I love that your tip was not about organizing, because I think starting there with your mindset is going to help you with, if you can declutter your mind, you can declutter your house.
Oh, absolutely. If you encourage yourself, you start feeling good about yourself. You're actually going to take the time to put things back, because I'm a very organized person. Right now, if I just take this camera and go through every single drawer, spaces, whatever, you will be like, are you for real? What is wrong with you? Like, everything is so perfect looking and in its place. But if I am in a bad space where I talk negatively about myself, the area, you will notice it in my area, because at that moment, I will be like almost punishing myself, almost like, this is what you deserve. Now live in this pigsty, and like almost on purpose making it bad, as if like punishing me. For some people, it's by drinking or overeating. It's like you messed up something and but if you're encouraging yourself to yourself, if you are kind to yourself, you feel good, little by little, things will fall into place. And don't think you have to organize your whole entire house in one day. Do 5 to 15 minutes a day, put a timer on, and just put things back where they came from, or open a drawer, something, and just see what you can live without, something that you wouldn't be sad if your house burned down, and donate it. Give it to somebody who might enjoy it more. Do this 5 to 15 minutes a day with a timer, and stop when you run out. Your life in a year I promise you will be completely different.
I love that. I love that tip and like starting small, taking those baby steps. Um, cool. We got two great tips. We got a organizing tip right there, and we got a mindset tip. So declutter your mind and declutter your space right now. Okay, so where can they find you? Where can everybody find you?
My Instagram is theminimalist.me. My website is also theminimalist.me. And yeah, Facebook, I also have it, but I don't know that it's / Sona Minimalist PO, I think, but don't quote me on that. They can find, if they need it, they can find it on my website.
Okay, so perfect. So the minimalist.me on Instagram and the website. So make sure you guys check those out. Follow her because she does give a lot of really good tips. I mean, she gave us great tips here today too, but just kind of behind the scenes sharing what you're doing. I just really appreciate it. And it always inspires me to start small, which I'm going to do today. I'm going to pick a spot. I can't do too much. My house is like, it's gotten bad over the last
Don't
couple of
look
years.
at the whole thing. Again, remember,
No,
5 to 15 minutes, small things.
I love that. I'm going to start that today, 5 to 15 minutes. Thank you so much for coming on the episode with me.
Awesome.
And I can't wait for you to travel to the middle of nowhere in Washington State to come help me cook for some other random reason so that you can help me organize my house.
Would love that.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.